The VoluMax LANDSCAPE tool is adapted to work on pictures like this one, landscapes with a lot of curves, very organic, where you can find some hills, mountains, forests, and even water or flat grounds. Like most of the tools in VoluMax, it works by creating a depth map. And in this tool, you will see that you will need to draw some mask. It's kind of easy because you only need to draw a close mask, a mid mask, and a far mask. And the last one, the farthest over here, doesn't need to be drawn. So in this picture, I created my 3 masks, the close, mid, and far mask. How did I decide where to draw my mask? Well, the first one over here in yellow is very easy because it's very close to my camera, so I decided that it will be the close mask. For the orange mask, it's more difficult to understand why did I do this. I decided that this mountain and this one were at the same distance from the camera and that they were in mid distance, so I draw my mask this way and connected them in the middle. I did the same way for the far mask with the mountains over there, and I left all the rest in the background empty, and VoluMax will understand that this is the farthest mask automatically. For this picture, I did exactly the same way. I don't have anything very close from my camera, but that doesn't matter. I did exactly the same way. I decided that the close was here, the mid was here, and the far mask was there. You really have to work like if you had a radar or a sonar instead of your eyes, and you have to see in your pictures the distance. And for this picture, I added an object, a 3D object in the foreground. We will see that later in this tutorial. You can add some objects to give a little more intensity to your 3D effect. For this picture, I did exactly the same way, but we can see that there's water. This is very close to my camera, so it's in yellow, it's in close. This is in mid distance, and I don't see anything over here at the same distance, so I put it in orange. For the red zone, I decided that this mountain over here was at the same distance than this forest, so I draw it in red over here. And I left all the background empty. If the camera moves, in reality, at this distance of the mountains, you won't see any 3D effects. So I left it empty. And you can see that there's water over here, and I used the ground and water tool. It's going to create a depth map going from the close to the far, and we will see how it works later in this tutorial. This picture can seem very difficult to work with, but in fact, by doing some drawing, some testing, you can have amazing results on pictures like this one. And here I did my 3 masks. I decided that everything here was in yellow, very close from the camera. You can see it here. It's kind of even blurry, so I decided it was very close. And then I started to draw my mid and far by just following the rocks over here. These kind of pictures can be very surprising in VoluMax. I am now in Adobe After Effects CS6. I'm going to open my VoluMax file. I can choose any of them if you're using another version. It's not a problem. If you have a message at the opening of the file saying you have to convert the file to your actual version, that's okay. Just open it, say OK to the message, and save the file. The first thing to do is to save the file with your own name. So I'm going to import my picture in the project panel. I'm going to double click on the photo button. It's going to open the photo composition. Let's drag and drop the picture in the layers over here. And now I'm going to scale it or move it just like I need. In this case, this picture is already matching on the composition. If you have a vertical picture or a square picture, just be sure to touch the up and lower borders. The black on each side is not a problem here. If you have a panoramic picture, just do it like this. And the cropping will be done at the end of your animation just before exporting. Okay, so I'm going to close this composition now, and you can see that a new button is activated called Setup. If you move the controller just you're curious, you can see that there's no 3D effect actually here. That's because we have to do the setup. Once in the setup, you have to go in the draw mask composition. So I'm going to double click here. You have to create masks in layer close mid far, like we saw later. You have to extend your masks far out of the borders, and once you finish, you have to go back in the landscape setup. So you have a help layer here. You can activate it if you don't remember how to work this, and you can see the close, mid, and far. And something very important here is that you have to extend your mask far away from the borders, so VoluMax understands that the mountain is not just finishing on the border, because if you do that, you will have a 3D effect just here following the borders of the composition. So just extend it. I'm using this picture because it's an easy one, because we can see the close rocks here, the mid mountain, and we're going to work over there in the far layer. I'm going to draw my first mask. You have to select the pen tool over here, select the close mask layer, and we're going to start drawing. I'm using the Roto Bezier activated because I think it's easier here. Okay, so now we have to extend. Just guess how the rock is going to go outside of the borders. In this case, something like this will be okay. Okay. If you want to draw more masks in the close layer, you can draw up to 3 masks on each distance. The fourth one will not be used. So now I'm going to draw my mid masks. I'm extending the mountain outside of the borders here. We still need to do the far one. Okay, now we're going to extend far away from the borders because we want everything to be in the far layer over here. Okay, once you've finished drawing your masks, just close the composition here and go back in landscape setup. We can see we have already a basic depth map. We're going to work it. If you go on the X-ray button, you can just see the wires or go back in depth mode. X-ray is to see all your drawings, colors. To activate or deactivate all the effects, you have to go in the Effect Control panel. If you lose this panel, just go in Window and select the Effect Controls Wire mode. Okay. So, if you go in the layer, if you check in the layers, you can see there's a setup layer. And in the effect control, you can just adjust your depth map just like you need. This is going to add some gradients to your drawings. Maybe in our case, something like this is okay. You can add some details. This is working based on the picture, and you can adjust the sharpness of the details. We're not gonna use it for now. You can adjust each layer brighter or darker over here. We're going to let it by default at 50, 50, 50. And we can see, if we go back in X-ray mode, that this mountain is closer in the front over here and farther over there. So we're going to just do a little adjustment here. What I'm going to do is say at VoluMax that this zone here is farther than this one by using a darken zone. Why do I want to use a darken effect? Because as you know, the darker you are, the farther you are, the brighter you are, the closer you are. So I'm going to tell that the zone here is darker. You have to select the layer, activate it. You can modify or delete this mask. I'm going to draw a new one by using the pencil. Okay, so actually we can't see anything because the darken zone and lighten zone are going to be visible only on the depth map. And here you can see it. Of course, this is very strong. If you don't see anything because you have the mask or the drawings above, you can use this little button, very useful, to just hide your drawings. So in this case, if I do something like this, maybe sharper. Okay, so maybe we can test now this depth map. I have to go back in main comp 4K. I'm going to grab this controller. Be sure that you are working in quarter so you can see in your viewport in real time how it moves. If you put half or even full, this is going to be very, very slow. Quarter is okay on most of the computers. Okay, so this is moving nicely. I can see some deformations here. So I'm going to correct them very easily by going back in my draw masks composition. And you can see that my drawing is maybe too close from the rocks. So this is kind of an easy modification. I'm going to grab my points here and I'm going to extend a little bit from the borders. So I'm sure it's not going to distort this rock. Okay, and you can see that now the distortion is less visible than before. So this is nice. Let's put some more detail in my depth map. I'm going to add a detailer strains like this. Okay, this can add some extra details in the rocks. Okay, this is nice. You can check your picture to see if this is going to add something. And I didn't show you guys the blur zone. And if you think this zone over here is maybe too sharp, we're going to, you can draw just like this, a mask that's going to blur your depth map in this zone. Okay, this is nice. You can put it stronger or softer. Something like this is okay because this is matching nicely over here. Going back in main comp 4K, and now I'm going to show you all the possibilities of VoluMax. So, first of all, I'm going to talk about the controller, because the controller can do a lot of things here. First of all, you can move, you can rotate, you can use the W key on your keyboard and start rotating the controller over here. If you want to zoom, it won't work on the scale because there are different possibilities to zoom in your picture. So the most important things are hidden in the controller. You have to go in the Effect Control panel, select the VoluMax controller, and just go in the Effects panel. First thing you can do is to hide the interface. This can be useful if you want to preview your animation and that the buttons are just annoying you. Then you have the 3D folder here. You have the Relax, Boost, and Add Parallax in the 3D effects. First one is Relax. To see how it works, I'm going to put an extreme position on my controller. And if I use the relax here, this is going to soft my depth map. If I use a lower value, it's going to put things very sharp here. And it's going to create distortions. This is very sharp and you have distortions appearing. And this is going to soft the depth map. Beware, because if you have a high value of relax, the 3D effect will be very smooth and sometimes you won't see it very well. So a nice starting point here is maybe 30 or 50. Let's say 50. So now you can see there's a boost effect, and this is going to increase the 3D effect on your picture or low down the 3D effect on your picture. Once again, beware, because if you put a high value, this will kill 3D effects on zones in the picture. So something very powerful but that can slow down your computer is the parallax effects. This is very powerful on landscapes, and it's going to duplicate your picture using the depth map to create some extra 3D on the picture. So if you have a very high value, you will see some distortions appearing, but if you put something like maybe 40 or 50 here, you're going to have a huge 3D impression on your picture. You can see that it's slowing down also in the viewport, but the result here is very satisfying. I'm going to put it back to 0 now so we can see all the effects. And before animating, I will put it back. In the camera effects over here, you have zoom parallax, zoom classic, fisheye, horizontal adjust, vertical adjust. The first one is working the same way than the parallax effects, but it's going to zoom. So you really can move in your picture like a drone or a helicopter here. And this can be very useful to give a dramatic animation to your picture. Beware to negative values, it's possible to use them, but you will see that this is tiling here. The Zoom Classic is just a simple scale. And sometimes on your pictures, you might want to use a mix of Zoom Parallax and Classic Zoom. Because the zoom parallax works very well on landscapes, but sometimes it can be a little bit too intense. The fisheye is going to give you this nice 3D optical effect on your pictures. The horizontal adjust, just to move in your picture on left and right or up and down. Okay, of course you can animate all this. If you go down, you can see the effects. You have the depth of field. This is very nice, but once again, it can slow down your computer here. You can adjust the focus points. And this is based on your depth map. I recommend adding the depth of field or the parallax just before exporting when you're glad of your animations and once you've used all the effects. Because it's going to slow down, it's not going to be very easy to set up everything if you have something laggy. You can also say to VoluMax that you don't want to tile the picture. This can be useful in some cases. And now I'm going to show you these buttons over here. First one will be flares. You can add some flares on the right, on the left. In this case, I can see that the light is coming from the right, so I'm going to use the right flares. Okay, I'm going to put it strong for now so I can show you how it works. You can change the flare aspect. You can adjust vertically your flare. And you can also change the color of this flare and the saturation. Here you can add some waves if you use the floor or water tool in the setup. We will see this later on the other picture because here we don't have any water. Here you can find the resolution guides. This is just something you can use when you are working on square pictures or portraits or vertical pictures. This is just a guide. It's not going to be visible when you're exporting. Okay, so now I'm going to add some particles here. I'm going to add some dirt like this. This is nice to give a vintage look. Then you can use the 3D particles. This is more powerful. By default, you have dust particle activated over here. You can select other particles. Rain, snow, fire, and a lot of stuff. I'm gonna go back on the dust. You can change the density over here if you want a little bit less particles. The opacity, the scale. You can add some chaos to mix a bit all the particles. You can animate this. This could be interesting too. You can change the 3D intensity. And you can do custom particles too, do color curves, color balance, color saturation. You can blur the particles or independently change the opacity of the layers of the particles. If you want to see more, just go watch the particle video tutorial that shows everything in detail and how to create also custom particles here. Here you can do some color corrections. You can put some black and white, change the exposure of your picture. You can change the gamma. You can change contrast and a lot of things here interesting like the insta red, insta green. That can give a nice look to your pictures. The vignetting, you have also light leaks. These guys are animated and customizable. And once again, you can check the included video tutorials about the color corrections. So now I'm glad of the effects of the 3D parameters, and I'm going to animate my picture. So I just want to do a simple left to right pan like this. So I'm going at 0 seconds. I'm putting my controller on the left. And if you go under VoluMax controller and you check the position, there's already a key on position and on rotation. So I'm going to go at maybe 3 seconds. I'm going to adjust my preview length. And I'm going to move my controller to the right, like this. And now to do the preview, I'm just going to use the 0 key on my keyboard, so it's going to launch the preview. Okay, this is nice. And to finish, I'm going to add a 3D object very fast here, so you can see the possibilities you have doing this. So to add a 3D object, you just double click on object 1. Don't forget to activate. Here I'm going to add a photo. I'm double clicking on this button. I'm going to put a paraglider here. Okay. You can scale it to take a maximum space in the layer over here. You can add a depth map. Just double click, go in effect control and activate. You can also say I don't need any depth map, or you can import your depth map you created maybe in Photoshop. This will be okay for this tutorial. I'm closing the depth map object, I'm closing the object too, and going back in the main comp. And go on the left and right, I can see this is moving just like this. Okay. I can put my paraglider farther in my picture. So now I can see he seems to be over here, near to the mountain. Okay, I want it closer from the camera. And he's much too big, so I'm going to do a scale. And I'm going to put it maybe something like this. Okay, I can rotate it too. And I can see that the displacement here is maybe too strong. So I'm going to relax it and get it lower in the boost. Once again, you can check the included tutorial about the objects showing all the possibilities. And here is the final result with a little bit more of customization and work. We are now going to work on a new picture, more advanced, because there are three objects, three characters here. I extracted them in Photoshop. I invite you to check the included tutorial named 3D Objects. I'm showing how to extract objects from pictures and to clean the background, and of course, how to work with objects in VoluMax. So I have my three objects and my background. I'm going to import all my pictures in VoluMax Landscape. Okay, here they are. I'm going to save my file like each time. And I'm going to start working on the picture by going in Photo. I drag and drop my picture here. It's already at the right size, but if it's not, just scale it. I'm closing Photo. Now I can go in Setup. I'm going to go in Draw Masks. And I'm going to draw my three layers, close, mid, and far. I'm going to work this one in the close layer. I'm going to work this one in the mid layer, and these rocks over here in the far layer. And everything here is going to be put in the water floor layer. Okay, I now have my three layers, close, mid, and far. And I can go back in the setup. Now we can see our depth map. I'm going to go in the X-ray mode. So I'm now going to create the water zone over here. I'm going to activate the floor water layer like this. And you can see it's over here. I'm just going to grab it and make it match with my picture. So this is the water zone. If I had a sky very close from the camera with big clouds and I wanted to put it in the 3D animation, I could just activate the sky here, put it at the bottom, and make it match to my picture. In this case, we don't need the sky. The 3D won't be visible over here, and the sky is very clear and far away. So this is a good start. We're going to see if the depth map is okay. So this is not bad, but we can see that this rock is very far away from these ones. In reality, in our picture, they are very close from each others. So we're going to do a little setup here. I'm going to put the volumize off so I can see better. I think the close one is okay. The mid one should be a little bit closer, and the far one should be closer too. This is okay. This is not bad. I'm going to put a little bit of bright zone over here. I'm deleting this mask. I'm taking the pen tool. And I'm going to say that over here, it's a little bit brighter. I'm going back in the depth map mode. This is much too bright, so I'm going to put it lower over here. I'm taking off the drawings here, hiding them. We can see that the borders between the rocks and the water is visible here. In reality, it shouldn't be visible because the water here is at the same distance than the rocks. So I have a solution here. We're going to use the blur zone. I'm going to delete the mask and draw a new one so I can blend a little bit between the rocks and the water. I'm also going to blend between the rocks over here. This should be okay. I'm going to hide the drawing so I can see the blur. This should be nice. We're going to put a little bit more of detail. Okay, this is nice. This should be a really nice depth map. We're going to test it in main comp 4K. So this is working really nicely. I'm going to test the parallax zoom. Okay. I'm going to add my 3 objects, my 3 characters. Once again, go check the object tutorial included. So let's check this out really fast. Okay, this is a nice result for a start. I'm going to show you how to animate the water here. I'm going to hide my 3 objects for now. Just double click on the water button here. Okay. Click on setup and activate the water. You can see the line just saying you where it's going to be animated. And now you have to just do a preview with the 0 key on your keyboard. Okay, we can see water moving here. This is not bad. You can put some text on your picture. You can move it anywhere you want. You can change the text. And like the other 3D object, you can put it farther or closer. Once again, check the included video tutorial on the objects to see how the text works. I didn't talk about the 2 buttons over here. If there is no way to get rid of a distortion in your depth map, you can use the protect tool. And this tool will just tell to VoluMax that at this exact position, there are distortions. And to avoid distortions, just go back on the protect button. You can see that it's not activated here. So you have to raise the value. So you can see that this works exactly the same way than the relax, but it's going to be only on the zone that you will draw on your depth map. You should use this effect really wisely, only when it doesn't work or you don't get rid of something. Once again, if you want to know more how this effect worked, just check the video included named Zone Protect. This button here named Paint Depth Map is going to give you the possibility to paint the depth map and to add some detail. This is very powerful. You can also import a depth map that you painted maybe in Photoshop. I'm going to show it very, very fastly here. Once again, check the video tutorial named Paint Depth Map, showing all the possibilities of this very powerful tool. I'm activating it. I'm taking the brush over here. You can see your depth map at 100% or your picture if you want to see where you need to paint. So in this case, I just want to set up the opacity of my painting and say, okay, this is nice. Well, we're not going to use it. So I'm putting everything back to 0 once I finished. Check the video tutorial to know more about this tool. Okay, we're going to animate this picture now. Okay, and I want to zoom in my picture. I'm going to add the parallax because will be nicer here. I'm zooming in the picture. Okay, let's say we're all satisfied with this animation and we're going to export the final result. To export, you have to double click on this button, saying that you have to double click on the export presets. Okay, so here we can see all the export possibilities of VoluMax. These are just presets. Of course, you can do all you want, but this is going to get things easier to export. Once again, check the video tutorial about how to export in detail. I'm going to choose the 1080p resolution, so I'm going to double click on it. Don't forget to set up your duration. If you export actually like this, you're going to have a 10 seconds video. That's not what we want because our animation is going only to 3 seconds. And I will use After Effects CC to export because it works much better than CS6. It's possible to export with CS6, of course, but it's much easier to do this with the most recent versions of After Effects. We're going to send it to Adobe Media Encoder. You can use the Ctrl, Alt, M shortcut on your keyboard. It's going to open Adobe Media Encoder. You have to wait for your project to appear in the list over here. Here it is. I'm going to choose the H264 codec here. You can choose all you want, but this one is nice for most situations. And I'm going to use the YouTube 1080p Full HD presets over here because I'm going to select where I want to export and going to click on the green button, play here. Okay, so this video was exported in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So here is our final result. And if you work a little bit more on your picture, here is what you can achieve. You can notice that in this example, I animated the characters with the puppet tool included in After Effects. Once again, if you want to see how I did that, just watch the 3D objects tutorial included in the tutorial folder.